Howard. I am secretary to the corporation. This is the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation's Audit Committee meeting. I'm going to call the roll. Director Corcoran.
Present.
Director DeMarchi.
Here.
Director Zarofsky.
I'm here.
And I want to note for the record that Chairman Krasansky could not be with us today, but we do have a quorum. So the first order of business is appointment of a chair pro tem. Director Corcoran, it's my understanding you're willing to serve?
I am.
Can I get a motion to appoint Director Corcoran for chair pro tem?
I'll make that motion.
So seconded.
Okay. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Corcoran, I hand the meeting over to you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you for your confidence today in appointing me Chair Pro Tem. The first item of business today is the approval of the draft minutes from the June 23rd, 2022 Audit Committee. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion about the draft minutes? Any changes?
I have no.
Okay, there being none, I'll take all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. So I welcome you today to the Controller Show. Albert will be presenting for us two items. The first is the discussion of the quarterly financial reports, which will include the financial statements, the analysis of the financial statements, the quarterly investment report, and the mid-year update report. And with that, I will hand the mic over to Albert.
Thank you. Like you said, we'll start with the quarterly materials. So in the first part of that is EFC's unaudited financial statements as of September 30th this year, which includes the statement of net position, statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position, and a schedule of administrative costs. I think it's timely, for use of time. It's better to move directly to the analysis of those financial statements, unless there are any questions on the financials themselves.
I had none.
Great. So the fourth page of the analysis of net position shows our balance sheet as of 9/30/2022, and the changes from 9/30/2021. So as you can see, one of the largest changes is the change in cash equivalents, and investments. That's due to us using our funds. You see a significant increase in short-term and direct financings receivable. So we're putting our cash to work. And actually, as of Tuesday, closing the 2022B pool deal, this will have changed significantly. So even though it's not reflected here, in our next quarterly financials that we put out, you'll see a significant increase in cash, a decrease in the short-term receivable that we're refinancing to long-term leverage financings, and then an increase in both bonds receivable and bonds payable. Other than that, we see our typical year-over-year changes, a significant increase in net position, in line with what we've drawn off of our capitalization grants. Moving to the analysis of revenues, expenses, and net position. The first line, bond. This is really due to a timing issue. At this point in 2021, we hadn't closed a new money deal for which is the main driver of these fees. I think the 2021A was all refunding. Project grant revenues are significantly higher than last year. So we have a higher rate of drawing our Hurricane Sandy grants, and then we also drew a clean water and drinking water. We had a clean water and drinking water draw from our base program, whereas at this point last year we had not. State assistance payments, this is really based on the timing of our state grant disbursements. So that, it's going to vary year over year depending on when projects come in for funding. Grants dispersed is the changes, an increase in the amount of SMLP or Hurricane Sandy grant that we gave out as that program came to a close. And next year, and in the coming years, we'll see an increase here as we get into sending out infrastructure additional subsidization. Moving on to administrative costs, personnel and fringe expenses are higher due to a higher headcount and ramping up as we expect those infrastructure funds. We also see an increase in travel and conferences. And, as we come out of COVID, we're utilizing those, dollars for the more. We're actually at about 100% of our 2021 travel expense already. So I think that's certainly a good thing. The state assistance payments, the other SRF administrative expenses. So this is a significant change, and it's due to those grants we pay from admin and the timing of those disbursements. So those are like the funds that were authorized for Mount Vernon earlier, as well as some other smaller good things we do with our administrative dollars. So any questions on the analysis?
Members?
What was the big decrease in our consultant? Was that?
That was due to the legal matter that was settled earlier.
Yeah. Right.
All right, great. So next is the quarterly investment report. So this is an inventory of all of our investments held by the corporation by account and by investment type, and then a reconciliation to our general ledger just to show that what we're saying here actually matches what is in our official books and records. Next, we have our mid-year update. So this is our projected versus actual. It's our projected full year. It's our actual year to date. So sort of to show where we are versus our full year projection. So the first item, bond financing fees. So this is we're at 64% of our full year projection, and actually after Tuesday we're very close to 100% of our full year projection. Most of these.
You don't anticipate bigger ones, another lump, right? I mean, that was the big one. That's the big one Tuesday.
Yep. Yeah, I don't believe we anticipate another leverage financing closing this year. We should be very close to 100% of the projection. We do generate some smaller fees from direct financings, but it's very, very insignificant in this.
Yeah.
In this line. Admin fees, you see we're at 90 for our full year, and really this is because a timing New York City pays in, and that's a very, very large chunk of our fee income. Interest income on investments were slightly below the full year target. Interest rates have risen recently. At the beginning of the year, we were still holding investments that from kind of before the big rise. So some of those lower rate issuances carried over into this year. So we're not quite at 50 target, but we would expect to catch up as the year goes on. Other significant items, state assistance payments. Again, that's when municipalities come in for disbursements, and that's reflected in both revenues and expenses for the same amount. Personal service, where we are with our and fringe. Fringe, we're slightly above the target. This always has a big fluctuation at year end for other post-employment and pension expenses that we get an actuarial valuation on annually. So we that can really kind of fluctuate significantly either way at the end of the year. The administrative fee expense, discussed in past meetings, generally comes in low, because it reflects all possible payments. And these are, again, these grants that we have the potential to pay out of our administrative funds. And then the big one, going to be a theme throughout the budget financial plan, the project grant revenues. So we have several grants remaining to draw later this year. So we expect to draw in, almost $300 million in between what we've already drawn in for the SMLP program and then what we'll draw for our base programs in the fourth quarter.
That's good.
Questions? Move on to the budget and financial plan.
Well, I think, let me just see if anyone else has any questions. Does anyone have any questions on the presentation on the quarterly financials? Okay. There being none, you just want to say, Albert, you do a great job with this. And so you're really doing great. So glad to have you at the helm here on this.
Thank you. Well, luckily I have a really good team that provides me with all this detail and kind of feeds it to me. So they make my job easy.
And next to Albert,
on behalf.
Chris Subb is the accounting manager sitting next to Albert and is one of those people that Albert just mentioned.
Yeah. Well, thank you all, and please thank them all on our behalf because you're doing a great job.
I guess one question not related to the financials itself, but just generally, to the extent that I know we've talked about this before at the highest level of new dollars coming in from the feds at different points at different times. Is there any consideration or what, if any, effect do you think, or how do you see that playing out, if at all, in any of the discussions that we've had today, or not?
So based on the way we currently have the program structured, where these dollars are going to go to hardship municipalities, we'll see an increase in a significant increase in our direct financing receivable, and then we'll also see obviously a significant increase in our project grant revenues as we draw in these funds.
Right.
And as a lot of them are either 100% or 50% additional subsidization, we'll see an increase in our grants dispersed and principal forgiveness line as well.
I guess the question there will just be in terms of timing and making sure you guys are on this, right? Giving all of us and more broadly your own team, right, some heads up about how that's going to play out and flow through and what effect, if any, it might have on decisions made in the other moving parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're still, this is still playing out.
Of course.
Us as well. I think, as we'll talk about in about 30 seconds, in the actual budget and financial plan, one of the big adjustments is to those project grant revenues that, last year when we were putting this together, the infrastructure bill was signed, a couple of weeks before this was due.
Right.
We put everything in, and then we're going to adjust the timing of those grant revenues, probably on an annual basis until we really kind of get in that rhythm of knowing when we're going to be drawing these dollars.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on that. Exactly.
Yep. So certainly, we're certainly keeping an eye on it.
Good. Great.
Okay. Any other questions? Albert, Chris, team, thank you. So we'll move on to item number 6 on our agenda today, which is a discussion of the proposed 2023-2024 fiscal year draft budget and financial plan. Once again, Albert will be discussing it. I just want the members to note that the draft budget and financial plan are going to be subject of ID number 1 on the board meeting agenda, and all the members of the board have those materials included. So if I could, I would take a motion to recommend that the proposed draft budget and financial plan be accepted and approved by the full board upon presentation of ID number 1 on the board agenda today. Is there a motion?
Make that motion.
Seconded motion.
All right, great. Now let's have Albert present the budget and financial plan.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this is substantially the same as the draft that was circulated prior to the last board meeting. There have been no significant changes between now and then. We've had another month of actual was layered on top, but substantially the same. So a couple of themes this year. Number one is going to be higher interest rates. This is something that we had discussed as something to keep an eye on at the last budget financial plan time, as rates were near zero and we were getting very little return on our short-term investments and our earnings that we keep on hand to disperse to municipalities. That has be a long-term issue. It's this year will be down a little bit, projecting to be positive. We're getting additional investment income from our short-term portfolio, which is and then again, we could have a variation in the pension OPEB expense. The programs, both clean water and drink water, are in, they're really just actually from a financial statement perspective, they're fantastic. There's really no major headwinds, especially with the expected infrastructure funds coming that are just gonna add to the equity position. And the current short-term interest rate environment, is really seen on the interest income on investments line. You'll see in the reconciliation that is, I think we achieved that up by almost $24 million in our revised budget, which is significant. We could at year end see a decrease carrying forward, but then we're doing very well in the out years, so more than make up for it. The program funds we see and administrative funds were either positive or breaking even throughout the plan. Lastly, the debt projections. So this is based on our current portfolio and then projected issuances for the life of the plan.
Okay.
So and this strong financial position that we're in is really a reflection of not just current staff at EFC's work, but through the life of these funds and the care and diligence that they've all taken.
Yeah, good news. Very strong.
Great. Questions?
I don't have a question. It's really interesting. A lot of years we're always comparing the prior year to the current year and looking at consistencies and trends. And, this is interesting to see what's going to become our new normal as we come out of the COVID years and how it impacted EFC in all ways. And then with the new infrastructure money and the new funds coming in. And just seeing that change, we're always accustomed to things being relatively consistent year after year. So it's really interesting and good news and good, very good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely changes coming over the next few years, but like you said, good changes.
Good changes, yeah.
Good changes. Any other comments on the budget and financial plan? Okay, just to recap, this is a motion to recommend that the proposed draft budget and financial plan for 2023-2024 be accepted and approved by the full board when it gets presented as item number 1, ID1 at the board meeting. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? There being no opposition, it carries. And in doing a good job as Chair Pro Tem, I am keeping us within our half hour for the start of the next meeting. Albert, once again, thank you to you and Chris and the entire team for all the good work you do all year long. in keeping us in good financial health and helping us to help those around the state with their drinking water and clean water. So thank you very much. And thank you, members, for your attendance and quorum. And Madam Secretary, thank you for
Welcome to the December 8th Environmental Facilities Corporation Board meeting. It's 11. Will you have the roll, please?
Certainly. Director Stefanka.
Here.
Director Westerman. Here. Director Leary.
Here.
Director Corcoran.
here.
Director DeMarquis.
Good morning, here.
Director Zarofsky.
I'm here.
And I note that Director Krasansky is absent today. We have a quorum.
First item on the agenda is approval of the draft minutes from November 3rd. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved. I remember the day well.
Adam? We want to do a second?
I'll do a second.
Excellent, thank you. Any discussion? Was a good day out in the field. The person who was absent was Jim. So if there's no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes. All right. I have nothing to report. Like I said, the last meeting, we did get out in the field, which was nice to see. Pretty western Mohawk Valley, right? And I hope everyone has a great holiday season. We'll move to Madam President.
Okay, usually as my holiday gift to everyone, I have a short president's report, if one at all, but I've gotten quite a few things actually. So, the 22B transaction closed on Tuesday, and Albert had made reference to it. The total financing was of approximately $326 million for 25 communities. And I just want to thank and congratulate Brian and his team, and really a whole folks, legal, actually throughout the EFC, to make this happen and come off without a hitch, completely smoothly. And Brian, if you want to.
As you said, we did 25 borrowers, 13 for clean water and 12 for drinking water. The true interest cost on that was 4.48. And the subsidized rate for the clean water side was 2.24 and 2.99 for the drinking water. While we did $326 million worth of bonds, when you combine that with the $297 million worth of equity and the premium, we're putting about $640 million worth of project in the ground. So it's pretty good. And the savings being delivered by the subsidy is approximately $220 million. So comparing that to last year, we can't really compare the subsidy because this deal was so much bigger. But we're about almost 2% higher last year before the subsidy. So, but we delivered a pretty efficient deal. So that's, we can't control the rates. We can control what goes into it. And that's, great job doing it. So.
Definitely. So thanks again. Sure by now, because there are November meeting, but the Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act was approved by voters in November with over 59% in favor, which I think is fantastic, especially in a year with high inflation and folks still voted for the Bond Act. So that's great. 4.2 billion provides obviously at least 650 million for WIA and stormwater projects, a lot of funding for climate change, resiliency. We'll continue to keep them board, apprised of implementation and direct impacts on EFC and what we're doing to implement pieces that impact EFC. The Kevin Boomhauer, who has joined us, sitting to the right of a financial analyst 3, he's been with us, I think, almost 7 years. Yep. In Division of Public Finance, was named one of bond buyers, Rising Stars this year. He was in DC. He and Brian went down to DC November 14th through 15th, and Rising Stars honors those under the age of 40 who contribute significantly to the area of public finance. So I invited Kevin here today, and congratulations to Kevin and again his team. Well deserved.
Thank you.
So, the proposed 2023 bond meeting schedule was distributed. What did I say? Board.
We do that many bonds.
Board
schedule. My topic.
Distributed. We've taken it down to only one meeting and got rid of the August meeting again, or September meeting again, like we did this year, and moved the August to the 24th. So any questions, concerns? Wanted to maybe have a couple less meetings. Okay. Change it, subject to change throughout the year, but if there's no concerns, no questions, we can adopt that as our schedule for next year. Ethics training will be held for all the independent directors after the January board meeting. I think it's 90 minutes.
We're going to be doing the full 2-hour training, but as most people have already attended, we can potentially get it down to 90, but until we have further guidance, I want to do the full-fledged training just for.
So that's required for the independent members, but board members can join as well. You need to get your ethics done. And then at the end of our agenda, there's 2 resolutions before the board today to recognize retired employees. Lynn Catazone, who was here for 24 years, serving in several different divisions, technical assistance, corporate ops, finance, and last engineering, working with our green infrastructure folks. And Bob Chakowski, who had 24 years with EFC, serving in EFC's finance division, and has been very involved in the past, Butcher Docs and leverage financing. So we'll let Bill and Brian discuss about some personal information about some of those folks when we get to those ID numbers. And that is it. And also, great holiday for everybody. And when this is over, we'll see you in the new year. I can't believe it. It's crazy.
Me neither. It is great. Great. Anyone for Maureen on that? That's good. All right. We did have a committee, the audit committee met today. Director Corcoran served as president or chair pro tem. Charlie, who is unable to join us today. Francis, did you have anything you want to add? I know ID number 1, I think, is part of the full board to approve financial plans, but do you want to?
Thank you, Chairman. We met with full quorum today in the audit committee, and I had 2 items of significance to discuss. One was a presentation on the quarterly financial reports, and then the second was an action item, which is the proposed 2023-2024 fiscal year draft budget and financial plan. We've unanimously voted to approve its recommendation to the full board that it be accepted and approved as you stated, ID number 1 on today's board agenda.
Thank you, Francis. No unfinished business, so unless anyone has anything they want to bring up, we will move to resolutions. State resolution number 1.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation approving the proposed 2023-2024 fiscal year draft budget and financial plan of the corporation.
I just want to recommend
for its approval.
my glasses on. I'm sorry,
Again.
Secretary. Secretary of State has joined us today. So thank you, Kate, for ID number 1. Any kind of a motion and a second, please?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
And a second.
Thank you, Adam. Albert Schneid will be the presenter.
Okay. Thank you. So have the proposed budget and financial plan of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation for the 23-24 state fiscal year. As discussed at the audit committee, this is substantially the same as the proposed budget and financial plan that was distributed and posted prior to the last board meeting on November. So EFC is in an excellent financial position from both a program and administrative perspective, and we continue through the life of the financial plan. The major components of the financial plan are a revised forecast of the current year, state fiscal year 22-23, including changes from the budget that was approved at this time last year, actual versus budget for the prior state fiscal year 21-22, a forecast of state fiscal years ending 2024 through 2027, as well as projected EFC employee counts and projected debt and outstanding debt service. The biggest potential changes from these projections are likely to be a fluctuation in short-term interest rates, and then the timing of drawing in infrastructure funds, which will lead to a shift in our project grant revenues line as we draw in those dollars. We don't see any major headwinds for EFC financially. Our administrative funds, we have enough reserves to sustain even a downturn. And the clean water and drinking water programs are expected to remain in a strong balance sheet position, especially with this influx of infrastructure funding. So open it up for questions, and just want to say thank you to the the whole team. Everyone does a great job to make sure that EFC is in a strong financial position and will continue to be for years to come.
Thank you. Thank you to Chris and Albert and the team, their teams, for all the effort on it. It's a great presentation. As Director Corcoran mentioned, the audit committee unanimously recommends full approval. So unless there's any further discussion, outstanding. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Unanimous. Resolution number 2.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation making certain determinations and authorizing certain actions in connection with the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, and authorizing financial assistance payments to certain municipalities to fund eligible drinking water projects from funds appropriated for water infrastructure improvement projects.
All right. I can have a motion and a second, please.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Vita.
I'll second.
Thank you, Christine. David Phillips will be presenting.
Okay, thank you. We have 2 drinking water projects today. The first is for the village of Lowville up in Lewis County. This project is seeking a WIA grant and also Drinking Water State Revolving Fund short-term funds. The project includes 2 new groundwater wells and associated treatment and a transmission main to connect those into the existing system. These wells will provide a needed additional source capacity. This past summer, the village's existing surface source and treatment plant had issues keeping up with the summer demands, and as a result, they had recent mandatory use restrictions. The new wells will also address an administrative order for noncompliance with disinfection byproducts. The project also includes upgrades to their existing treatment system, which will modernize and improve operations of that plant. The next project is for the village of Schaghticoke in Rensselaer County. This is for a long-term interest-free financing. This project includes system-wide upgrades to replace existing aged infrastructure, includes a new storage tank, includes approximately 17,000 linear feet of water main replacements and associated hydrants, valves, and services. It also includes a new treatment process to remove iron and manganese, which will address a violation which was issued by the Rensselaer County DOH. In general, the system-wide improvement project will upgrade infrastructure that is in many cases 100 years old and includes many undersized mains, which cause issues with low pressure, discolored water, and inadequate fire flows. Any questions?
Great. In favor of ID number 2? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. ID number 3.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation amending the prior authorizations for financial assistance to be provided by the corporation to certain recipients in connection with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund.
Okay. I have a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you, Adam. Brian McAvoy will be presenting.
Thank you very much. There are 6 projects that we're seeking extensions for. The first is the town of Boston. It's in Saratoga County. It's for the planning and design and construction of a wastewater collection system, including a force main, new pump stations to replace the on-site septic systems along the shores of Boston Lake. We're seeking authorization for the extension of a maturity date from February 9th, 2023 to February 9th, 2024. The additional time is primarily needed to complete another work that needs to wait until spring to be completed. The next 2 are for the city of Cortland. The first is for planning, design, and construction of sanitary sewer and storm collection system replacements along Clinton Avenue. We're seeking authorization to extend the maturity date from February 1st, 2023 to February 1st, 2025. Construction has been slowed primarily because the contractor modify some green infrastructure practices to improve performance. The additional time will allow for construction completion and to finalize total project costs. The second for Cortland was a project for planning, design, and construction of drainage system improvements to mitigate against flooding and in-kind sewer repairs. We're seeking authorization to extend the maturity date from February 1st, 2023 to February 1st, 2025. The project schedule is longer than expected because the city employees that were working on the project as technical force account are no longer with the city, and the newer staff has been assigned to the project. The additional time is primarily needed to complete drainage improvements and green infrastructure. The next is for the Village of Malone in Franklin County. It's for the planning, design, and construction of wastewater treatment plant and collection system improvements. We're seeking authorization to extend the maturity date from February 5th, 2023 to February 5th, 2024. This will allow time for the village to finalize total project costs and to execute an agreement with the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, or DOCS, prior to the conversion to long-term financing. The next is for the City of Schenectady, for the planning, design, and construction of the city's sanitary sewer overflow mitigation and improvement project. Seeking authorization to extend the maturity date from February 2nd, 2023 to February 2nd, 2024. And this will allow time for the city to assess litigation and the associated costs related to the initial general contractor leaving the project and to complete some of the punch list items. The last is for the town of West Seneca in Erie County. It's for the planning, design, and construction of sewer rehabilitation for sanitary sewer overflow elimination. We're seeking authorization to extend the maturity date from February 1st, 2023 to February 1st, 2024. And the additional time is needed to obtain third-party funds that will be used to pay down the short-term financing. That's the six projects. Are there any questions?
All right.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing further, we'll take a vote on ID number 3. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, unanimous. ID number 4.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation making certain determinations and authorizing certain actions in connection with the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and authorizing assistance payments to municipalities to fund eligible clean water projects from funds appropriated for water infrastructure improvement projects.
Motion and second.
I'll make a motion, Chairman.
Thanks, Ida.
I'll second.
Thank you, Christine. Very active in this meeting. Bill Brazell.
All right, thank you. Today we have 8 clean water projects before the board for new financings. First, we have 2 projects with the Albany Municipal Water Finance Authority. The first is a long-term hardship financing. The request before the board today is for $6,492,198 long-term interest-free financing. This project to divert flow from the area around University of Albany and the Harriman State Office campus, to divert that from flowing to Albany County's south plant to instead flow to the north plant. This project alleviated pressure on a combined sewer overflow into the Hudson River, thus and fewer overflows to the Hudson and improving water quality there. The project constructed a new 3 million gallon per day wastewater pump station and about 5,400 feet of force main to divert the wastewater to the other wastewater treatment plant. As part of the work, about 4,000 linear feet of existing sewer were lined in order to improve flow characteristics. And construction was completed in 2020 on this project. The other project for the Albany Municipal Water Finance Authority is a new short-term financing. The request today is for $1.875 million in bipartisan infrastructure law grant and associated loan, also $1.875 million in bill loan, and also for a $937,500 WIA grant. This project will replace inoperable tide gates on a combined sewer overflow into the Hudson River. The inoperable tide gates are currently allowing river water to flow into the sewer system when the Hudson River is high. Water is being treated at the Albany South plant, which is quite inefficient. This project will help alleviate stress on the Albany County South wastewater treatment plant. The project will also benefit an environmental justice area in the city of Albany. This project was supported with an engineering planning grant from 2020. Construction is expected to begin April and be completed by the end of 2023. Next, we have another short-term interest refinancing for the Village of Champlain and Clinton County. The request before the board today is $2,502,000 in long-term interest refinancing and an $834,000 WIA grant. Village of Champlain owns and operates an existing sewage collection and wastewater treatment plant with an average daily permitted flow of 0.5 million gallons per day. This project is being undertaken largely to add disinfection to the wastewater treatment plant. So the project includes a new ultraviolet disinfection system and a variety of other upgrades and replacements at the treatment plant. Construction began in July of this year and is expected to be completed next June. And this project also received an engineering planning grant, this one in 2019. Next, we have the Village of Corinth in Saratoga County. The request here is a $8,177,398 short-term financing. The Village of Corinth has an existing sanitary collection system, largely constructed of clay pipe, has experienced significant inflow and infiltration. Additionally, they have a stormwater system that is inadequate and aged. So this project will include the replacement of approximately 4,900 linear feet of sanitary sewer and 6,200 linear feet of storm sewer on Palmer and Gold Avenues within the village. There's also two properties within the village that are on septic systems that will be provided sewer service through this project. The project was supported with an engineering plan in 2016. Construction started this past August and is expected to be completed in October of 2024. Next is a long-term financing for the Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority. Is $7,652,105 in long-term interest refinancing. Livingston County Water and Sewer Authority operates the Lakeville wastewater treatment plant that serves the area as part of the Genesee River drainage basin. The treatment plant capacity was expanded to 1.27 million gallons per day through this project. Phase one of the project included ammonia removal upgrades in order to meet ammonia removal requirements for the expanded flow capacity. Phase two of the project included some various other improvements to the wastewater treatment plant to upgrade equipment that was beyond its useful life. This project was supported with an engineering planning grant from 2013. Construction started in 2018 and should be completed this month. Next, we have another long-term financing. This for the city of Oneonta in Otsego County. Requested authorization is $6,749,263 in long-term interest refinancing. The city of Oneonta owns and operates a 4 million gallon per day wastewater treatment plant that serves the city and 2 sewer districts in the town of Oneonta. The treatment plant was originally constructed in 1973, and several components of the treatment plant had reached the end of their useful life. The proposed project rehabilitated various components in the treatment plant, including the primary clarifiers, trickling filters, RBCs, and secondary clarifiers. This project serves and protects an environmental justice area within the city of Oneonta. And then lastly, we have 2 projects in the city of Rome. The first is an interest refinancing for $3,560,913. The city of Rome operates a 12 million gallon per day wastewater treatment plant that sees an average daily flow of just over half that. So this project constructed improvements to the solids handling equipment. And the board and others from EFC visited Rome last month. We saw some of this equipment, the 2 belt filter presses and and associated equipment were replaced. The second Rome project is also long-term financing, this for $3,116,109. This project constructed a new UV disinfection system as required by DEC. The City of Rome has a seasonal disinfection requirement for May through October. This project also included the cost of replacing 110 feet of 12-inch clay sewer that had collapsed on Erie Boulevard in the city in 2017. Those are the two Rome projects. Are there any questions on any of these projects?
That's a great suite of projects. How many of those, because I'm looking, how many of those came from planning grants, like up to 8 years ago? I thought
I mentioned them.
you did.
We had two.
One Albany, Champlain, Corinth, that's 3. Livingston County is 4. 4 of the 8.
That's great. I remember when we got those planning grants going. It's amazing to see. It took a while, but it's good to see those planning grants as part of the play queuing up.
And going back in ID, out of the ones that I addressed for extensions, there were 3 out of the 6 had planning grants.
It's great.
And just to add to that, so many of the grants that we're talking about coincide with our downtown revitalization initiative that's really supporting, transformation in many of these communities. So in Cortland is certainly one of those, as is Rome, as is certain parts of Albany. So there's certainly that intersection between the work that's happening at EFC and what's happening in terms of our economic development strategies.
We really saw that in our visit to Rome when we were looking at our GIGP projects and how they worked with in the same areas where they got the downtown revitalization funds. So
yeah, it's great. Love to see it.
Great, thank you, Secretary Rodriguez. Okay, nothing further? All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, that is ID number 4. ID number 5.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation expressing thanks and appreciation to Lynn Cazone for outstanding service to the corporation.
Okay, can I have a motion and a second, please? Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Christine. Bill and Maureen will be presenting this.
Yes, as Maureen had mentioned, Lynn was with EFC for 24 years. She had a total of 38 years of service to the state of New York. In her time with EFC, she worked primarily on small grant programs, including the East of Hudson Septic Program, GIGP, the State Septic Replacement Program. She was known for very efficiently and accurately processing disbursements for all of these grant programs, small grant programs. Within the last 2 years, she had processed over 400 disbursements, which kept her quite busy. We will miss her. We wish her well on her retirement. She's going to be splitting her time between New York and sunny Florida for the winter. Yes, we're gonna miss her. She left a hole in that section.
she did, on a personal note, she was just always had a smile on her face. And when we were doing the work with the unemployment insurance, she just was working like crazy on that initiative. So
Thank you for your service.
yeah, 38 years with the state.
Impressive run. Okay, that's great. Thanks, Bill, for presenting, and congratulations to Lynn. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, we have another employee recognition and ID number 6.
A resolution of the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation expressing thanks and appreciation to Robert Jakowski for outstanding service to the corporation.
Okay, could I have a motion and a second?
I'd be honored to make him second. I think.
You'd be the- Okay, Maureen again and Brian Clintock.
So Maureen sent us an email yesterday and said that, she wants us to say something nice about Bob. And I said, well, if you make me. And then I thought about it a little bit and I was like, you know what? It'd be hard to say something bad about Bob. Bob was here for just about 25 years. He and I, while I had prior service at EFC, I moved over to finance the same time he did. And we moved up through finance. Bob figured out that he liked the data side of it, which was great because we needed that. But it wasn't just the data side of it that really made it for Bob. It was his understanding of the indenture and how that data and all of the loans rolled up into the indenture that really helped us with the disclosure, the rating services, and all of that. Also, the ad hoc data requests from whoever was in charge at the time. Sometimes they came in quickly. Sometimes we had a little bit more time on them. So if he was here, we could say some other fun stories about him. Leave it at that.
Yeah, same thing. Bob was always there when you needed him. Great with numbers, working on our disclosure, and
At the end of the day, you could find him wandering around the garage looking for his car.
All his brain power for us.
Yeah. Until he got the electric car, then he knew where it was because it was plugged in.
Well, congratulations to Bob as well. It's 49 years of service for EFC alone.
Yep.
Impressive.
Yep.
Thank you for your service.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous again.
Aye.
So I think that concludes our resolutions. I have no new business. Unless there's somebody else who would like to raise something, I will take a motion and a second for adjournment.
I would just like to wish everyone a happy holiday season. It's been an amazing year of adaptation and really stepping up. So just enjoy the holidays and thank you for all you do.
Likewise to Peter and everyone else on the board and staff. All right, all those in favor for adjournment?
Thanks, everybody.
Aye. Thank
Nobody
you.
actually gave a motion in a second.
No.
Okay.
Sorry. I just don't want you all to go. I'm trying.
Can I actually get a motion in a second?
Moved.
Okay.
Secretary Rodriguez with the motion, Christine with the second.
Have a great holiday, everybody.
All right, bye, everyone.
Next board meeting will be
Holidays.
Thursday the
Thank you.
12th.
Great job this
January
year.
at 11:30 a.m. All those in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Adios.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.